I just recorded a TikTok on this, so I thought it might be helpful to stay in the same vein and keep going with it. Codependency in our culture is really scapegoated. It's really judged. It's really identified as being bad and dysfunctional. And as many of those descriptors and characteristics of certain components of codependency are true, I have been noticing the need to expand on codependency. Wait a minute now, we got to get a whole picture. And so some of what I want to color in is where the codependency comes from, and that codependency is a behavior, and every behavior has a purpose. And if I consider myself codependent and codependency is dysfunctional, bad, and all wrong, then yeah, you guys know that ain't gonna fly with me. So we got to incorporate the shadow work a little bit. We got to acknowledge where it comes from, because I can't heal something if I don't understand the etiology and where it comes from. So when we think of codependency, some of the synonyms that we think of is control addict, or people pleaser, or chief enabler, or problem solver, right? Remember, a lot of these patterns continue and keep going because when I do them, I'm praised because I'm really making everyone else's life a lot easier. So just the invitation to consider how and why codependency becomes cyclical and we get stuck in it is amberism, because it's a mind fuck. I'm over here getting praised for my codependent behaviors at work because I give 110%, which gets me bonuses and raises. But then at home, because remember, amberism, another one, it's a relationship language. So I can't just show up codependent in one area. Those benefit me over here, and recognizing sometimes those benefit me in other areas too. So the etiology and the purpose of behavior is always, this is fact, you can Google this. Every behavior has a purpose. Every behavior has a purpose. So when we think of control addict, problem solver, people pleaser, chief enabler, the purpose of those roles of codependency is to create safety. I feel unsafe in my body, so I'm going to do something outside of my body to get some semblance of control so that I can feel better. That's codependency. Now, am I doing all the wrong things for the right reasons? Of course, it's codependency. It's focused on the wrong person. Everybody out here instead of on me. But I can't do to me what wasn't done to me. If I wasn't raised to be full of self-worth and self-compassion and self-love, how the hell do I know how to do that? So in codependency, the intention, you also cannot Google this as an amberism. There's a lot of these tonight. Wow. Amber's book that I'm going to write it one day is going to teach that the intention of codependency is stabilization. The intention of codependency is homeostasis. Shit hits the fan, major loss of some kind happens, and family systems, because we're made up of individual humans, are built to survive. So what do? We survive. Piper has a lot to say, apparently. I don't know if you can hear her, but she's like cheering me on. So the intention of codependency is homeostasis. It's stabilization. Remember, if you've done the workshops, the baby mobile that I hold up and I say, something happens to one person, and what happens to the baby mobile, which is the whole rest of the family? Everybody starts doing this. Maybe dad is an alcoholic and loses his job because of the drinking. He's starting to have consequences. His addiction is starting to have consequences. Maybe mom has severe mental illness and is taking too many Xanax. And she's supposed to work from home, but she keeps falling asleep, so she's not making any money. Or maybe heaven forbid, there's a parent that's in a car accident and passes away. The root of codependency is trauma. So shit happens, life happens, of which we can't control, and a family system has to survive because as humans, that's how we're built. We're built to survive. Literally, when our physical body suffers a cut, the clotting factors in our blood go to that area and keep us from bleeding to death. That's what our bodies do. They literally keep us alive. That's why we have fight, flight, freeze, fawn. So as a system, that's what we do. We work together. So the oldest of the children step into whatever roles dad or mom fulfilled that can no longer do it. The intention is stabilization. What makes it dysfunctional is that there is no repair. The dysfunction comes from the numbing and medicating. The dysfunction is there's 100% correlation with suicide, depression, and criminal behavior and active use. So when I'm not numbing and medicating, that shit doesn't happen. That's what that correlation means. So codependency serves a purpose. It rushes to that area, it creates stabilization. But then when there isn't enough emotional availability to create the repair, that's when the dysfunction happens. That's when, as creatures of habit, we keep doing the same shit over and over again, expecting a different result. So when we think of those roles, control addict, problem solving, people pleaser, chief enabler, they're all serving a purpose. The dysfunction has set in, and I'm trying to figure out how to create some safety for me individually. But because I'm a part of a system, it makes it really hard to do that when there's no recovery. Numbing and medicating is driving the bus, not recovery. So the way our culture scapegoats codependency, it's not that I'm trying to protect codependency or make it glamorous by any means. And yeah, if it weren't for my codependency, I wouldn't be here. If it weren't for some of my numbing and medicating, I would not be here. So being able to recognize that as it serves a purpose, it no longer serves me. The life that I live now of emotional availability, codependency doesn't serve me. It doesn't allow me to feel the joy, to feel the peace, to feel the connection. Whereas when life happens and it's really scary, we're in this state of shock where we're not feeling, but codependency creates stabilization. So it's just more about me wanting people to have a full picture of what it actually is. Because if I can't acknowledge that at the time that was the best I could do, I'm not sure that I'm in reality. Amber, how do I stay in reality when fantasy is much better? Well, if I'm not suffering consequences, it's going to be really hard to do that. And usually when I'm in fantasy, there is consequences. When I'm spending money like it's just coming down like rain, the consequence is I'm going to go to the store and run my card and they're going to decline it because there ain't nothing going to be there. Reality sets in, right? Fantasy has consequences because it isn't reality. And it's also a reactive state versus an intentional state. Recovery is about living in intention. It's about recognizing at times when I go home, my codependent behaviors come out with my mom because I am loving her more than she's loving her. So, yes, I might be triggered, and yes, my codependency may come out before I even realize it. And it's because the imbalance is like this. So, being able to recognize where I am in my recovery. Remember, we haven't talked about this in a while either, but recovery gives me the gift of self-awareness. So if I can recognize where I am in my pathology, my recovery needs to meet it or exceed it. Otherwise, I'm in it. And it's not going to feel good. There's going to be consequences.